right. We'll get started. Good evening. My name's Craig Maladra. I'm an alderman from the 5th Ward. I'm filling in for the mayor tonight. He's in Italy and we're here. Don't hold it against me. Sorry. We're going to begin tonight with the city council meeting. Let's have a roll call first, please.
Alderman Bruno.
Here.
Alderman Burgard.
Here.
Alderman Clements. Absent. Alderman Ruby.
Here.
Alderman Caven.
Here.
Alderman Kilberg.
Here.
Alderman Maladra.
Here.
Alderman Marks.
Here.
Alderman McGowan.
Here.
Alderman Swanson.
Here.
And Mayor Burns is absent.
I should mention that Alderman Clements would be here if it wasn't for a snowstorm that stranded him in Wisconsin, so he couldn't make it back. Pledge of Allegiance is the next item. Gene, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Before we dive into our regularly scheduled business, I would like to ask you all to share a moment with me to recognize firefighter John Schultz. He's been a firefighter with Geneva Paid on Call for over 20 years. He passed away at Delnor Hospital this past Sunday. So if we could take a moment, please, to just honor his service to the city and think of his family. Thank you. Now, thank you very much. Okay, back to the agenda. First item on the agenda, item 3A, the annual report from the Geneva 708 Mental Health Board. Welcome.
Good evening, City Council members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Susie Sjogren, and I am the chairperson of the Geneva 708 Mental Health Board. It is comprised of individuals who have a sincere and passionate regard for Geneva residents who need services for developmental disabilities, mental health, or substance abuse and addiction needs. Professionally, the members of this board either have worked or are currently working in the medical, business, and education fields. Collectively, their professional skills and expertise provide for an insightful and informed ability for each member to discuss, make decisions, and carry out the responsibilities relative to the people the 708 Mental Health Board was created to serve. I am very proud to introduce to you the other members of the Geneva Mental Health Board. They are Connie Wagner, Vice Chairperson Eleanor Hamilton, Christine Kautz, Jean Gaines, Rick Gabriel, and Carrie Holman. Additionally, and new to our board this year, is the role of a student liaison. I am happy to introduce a senior from Geneva High School, Anna Finson. You will be hearing from Anna in just a bit, and a description of her role and responsibilities is included in the paperwork that we provided you. We would also like to once again thank many of the city's employees. City Administrator Stephanie Dawkins, who is prompt in sharing her knowledge and guidance to questions we have regarding municipal procedure. Jean Fernari, who is our communication liaison and provides answers to administrative questions. Rita Cruz, the finance manager, who fields our funding questions. And we would also like to thank Peter Collins, Kevin Starr, and Matt Pasquini, who have provided technology and communication support. As you know, the 708 Mental Health Board's primary responsibility is to advise in the allocation of grant funds. Just a few weeks ago, the board engaged in the discernment and allocation process of the grant applications requests. We are confident that Geneva residents in need of mental health, developmental disability, and/or substance use and addiction needs are successfully supported. Included in the documents you have before you are the list of 13 service providers who completed the grant application and requested funds. They are the Association for Individual Development, Changing Children's World Foundation, Day One Pact, Eckerd Center for Mental Health, Elder Day, Fox Valley Special Recreation Association, the Joshua Tree Community, Lighthouse Foundation, Lazarus House, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, WRENS, Suicide Prevention Services, and Tri-City Family Services. Regretfully, the total amount of funds requested by the 13 agencies exceeded the total amount available by $14,820 this year. However, each and every service provider expressed their gratefulness in the financial support given by the City of Geneva. The board's two other functions of education and advocacy were carried out in various ways this past year. We continue to invite guest speakers to our meetings. They are representatives, often the executive directors, of the agencies who receive our funds, and individuals who are experts in the field of their work with mental health, substance use, addiction, or developmental disabilities. In listening to what they have to share, we stay informed of our community's needs and the best practices of how best to meet those needs. In May, the National Mental Health Awareness Month, we hosted an on-the-table discussion facilitated by Cheryl Potts of the Kennedy Foundation. Cheryl led approximately 40 attendees in discussion regarding what areas of mental health services need our attention and how many of us and the service providers can be a part of the solution to reducing the stigma of mental health. Over the summer, members of the board were invited by Sheriff Ron Hain to tour the Kane County Jail to see the potential of the space that he plans on leasing out to rehabilitative programs. This would allow direct access for clients in need of addiction services and counseling, as well as walk-in residential treatment. One of the service providers that requested grant funds from the board this year is Lighthouse Foundation. They began a pilot program inside the jail to give addiction counseling. The members of this board were able to enter a pod and speak directly to prisoners. We asked the question, what would help benefit you most? And the resounding answer was additional individual and group counseling. It was an affirming experience for us to hear directly from individuals who receive services and that those services provided are working and making a difference in their lives. And now I would like to allow Chris Kautz and Anna Finson to share some important messaging.
Thanks, Susie. We're a team. So, good evening. Thank you for your interest in what our board does. We believe that what we do is very important work, and we're serving our community in the way that I'm confident is what we need. So, tonight, what Anna and I are going to talk about is a little bit about reducing the stigma on mental health. Sometimes we have people in our community who most of the time are living successfully with their mental illness, sometimes unsuccessfully with their mental health issue, or developmental disability or substance abuse. As Susie pointed out, those are the three earmarks of our board that we support. And like I said, my name is Christine Kautz. I've been serving on the board since about 2016. I'm a registered nurse, have been for many years, and most of those years have been in the emergency department where, unfortunately, I did witness a lot of people in crisis. Whether it was a broken bone, a heart attack, or an attempt to take their life, there was one thing that all of those patients had in common, and that was that they needed help. So doing that work opened my eyes to the reality that mental illness is in our community, and we need to start talking about it. Joining this board has opened my eyes to the treatment our service providers, the 13 that Susie read for you, what they're providing for our community and how it greatly improves their quality of life. They are truly amazing people. And as you know, we meet on the second Tuesday of every month, and you all are welcome to attend. We've got some great speakers lined up, I think, after the first of the year. So now I want to turn it over to our student liaison. She wants to talk a little bit more.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my name is Anna Finson, like Ms. Shogan already said. I'm a senior at Geneva Community High School, and my kind of connection with mental health is a personal connection. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression when I was in middle school and have been receiving services ever since. Starting kind of last year, or I guess 2 years ago now, I decided that on my path to recovery, part of what I wanted to do was be able to help others who were teenagers like me, who felt like there was a stigma surrounding them. And so Mrs. Shogan and my mom were nice enough to drive me down to Chicago, and I ended up getting to work with NAMI Chicago over the summer, which is National Alliance on Mental Illness. I interned with them, and it opened my eyes to so many new things. Well, luckily, I had all of the services I needed to get healthy, and I had family that was very supportive. Working at NAMI Chicago, I discovered that most people aren't as lucky. And so I realized that when Mr. Shogan asked me to join the board, how important it was that we continue to fund our service providers, because these people truly are some of the only support and family members that our patients have, even in our community. So, yes. Okay, so now Christine and I wanted to talk just for a few minutes about the challenges of overcoming stigma of mental illness. In an article written by the medical staff at Mayo Clinic, stigma is when someone views you in a negative way because you have distinguishing characteristics or a personal trait that's thought to be or actually is a disadvantage or negative stereotype. Unfortunately, negative attitudes and beliefs towards people with mental health conditions are common. An article in the Journal of the World Psychiatric Association describes how stigma has two major components: a public one, or the reaction of the general population had to the people with mental illness, and the self-stigma, or the prejudice that people have with mental illness that tends to turn against themselves. Some harmful effects of stigma can include reluctance to seek help and treatment, lack of understanding by family and friends, coworkers, or others, fewer opportunities in work, school, or social activities, or trouble finding housing, bullying, physical violence or harassment, health insurance that doesn't adequately cover your mental illness treatment, and the belief that you'll never succeed in certain challenges or that you can't improve your situation.
Thanks, Anna. So now I want you to turn your attention toward the cup and the stones that you have in front of you. And I want you to think of 5 people in your life. Could be yourself, it could be a friend or family. Just kind of have 5 people in your head of people that you have relationship with. And of those 5 people, I want you to put a rock in the cup if you know they have or they ever had an experience with a mental health illness. Thank you. Well, if you know 5 people that are close to you, you have been touched by mental illness. Not only will 1 in 5 adults in the United States experience mental illness in a given year, but the National Institute of Health reports that 1 in 25 will experience a serious mental illness that substantially interferes or limits 1 or more of major activities in their life. For the rocks that are still in front of you, how do you know that a person, that one of those people that you thought about hasn't been affected by mental illness? I mean, Anna and I are talking about stigma here. It's very possible that all those rocks should be in that cup. Very possible. So the National Alliance, as Anna talked about, National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, says that you don't see mental illness physically. So it's very hard to understand. Stigma is largely based on fear. And people tend to be afraid of the unknown, and that can be damaging to someone who really needs help.
So an article in 2017 talks about correcting misconceptions, and this was in USA Today. Because so much is misunderstood about mental illness, awareness needs to start with basic facts. First of all, mental illness is not a myth. Mental illness is a real, diagnosable, and treatable. Some people don't believe in mental illness, or that it's potentially lethal. Sometimes it's the belief that you can get over yourself, or something that can be caused by a personal weakness. You'd be surprised at the number of people that said, well, why don't you just try being happy for once? What doctors do know is that the biological and environmental factors cause mental health conditions and problems can be treated. People with mental health are regular people. It's not always homeless people. It's not a violent person or anybody that, is super unnormal. It's kids that you see walking down that are friends with your kids, that are your coworkers, that are your family members. More likely, it's the person that you've been sitting next to for years and had no idea they were dealing successfully with mental illness. The diagnosis of mental illness can be very frightening, especially for families. Imagine you're a parent dealing with a child who has psychosis. You wonder what their life is going to be. Then you hear the great stories of the people who've become very successful in life, and you wouldn't know they had anything going on if they didn't tell you. Like the marbles on your desk, or rocks in this case, stigma increases isolation in people who are already isolated due to the symptoms of their illness. It creates more shame, more embarrassment, in some people who are already feeling that way due to symptoms that impact their life's trajectory. Very often, stigma also prevents people from seeking help that's available. For example, Harrington shares an alarming statistic. 3/4 of men living with mental health conditions will never see a doctor. So what can we do? Mental health experts recommend the following. Find compassion. Deep-rooted misunderstanding of mental illness is a barrier to compassion. When you think about cancer or heart disease, depression is typically understandable. Depression is typically understandable with this diagnosis, yet not as stigmatized. Why should it be different? Typically, if someone goes to the hospital, people rally together, they bring food, send cards. But when someone is hospitalized due to mental illness, it doesn't happen. Let's acknowledge we can do better. Use different language. Replace the phrase suffering from mental illness with something less stigmatizing, such as living with a mental illness, or affected by mental illness. Avoid damaging terms, such as crazy or psycho, and others. Just stop saying those words. Avoid labeling, such as, he's bipolar, implying the diagnosis is the entire person. Bipolar is a condition. Would we say, he's cancer? No, of course not. So it's no different when it comes to mental health. Next, talk about it. Talking about mental illness is surprisingly difficult, considering how many of us experience it. The more people you know who have mental illness, the more people who come out and say, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have obsessive compulsive disorder. And the more that condition becomes just another part of that person. Mental illness doesn't define a person. It's just something that's part of them. Remember, the opposite of stigma is acceptance. Finally, in closing, relationships may be the best medicine. The reality is, people need people. Stigma erodes the vital connections, so by working against the stigma associated with mental illness, we are becoming part of the cure to mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from anybody on the dais?
Thank you for that great report and your preparation and your sincere feelings about your work on this committee, your passion for what you're doing. It's appreciated. The fact that you visited the Kane County Jail. Susie, thank you for organizing that. I think that's an experience that very few in our community have had the opportunity to be a part of and to witness it and to see the need and to take the time to interject yourself into that community and to learn more about some of the challenges as it relates to mental health is really important. It's great. I see, for those that are watching on television, $185,000 was contributed through this program to those three important areas this past year, and taking the time to meet with those organizations and to really get to understand their needs. I think it's really important work that your committee does, and certainly appreciated. Just to show that our community reaches beyond just this effort, as a member of the Community Chess Board, we did 9 of these same organizations we supported this past year in October we met with a number of these organizations and contributed from the city of Geneva $150,000. So between the two, between your efforts, the community's efforts, through two channels, we are making, are having an impact, and let's keep up the good work. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ruby.
Thank you. I just have to say, Anna, thank you so much for sharing your story. That took guts, and I commend you. Hats off to you. Thank you for inspiring many others, I'm sure.
We're very proud of Anna's addition to the board, and all 7 of the adult members have been inspired by her as well. So thank you for acknowledging that.
I would like to also thank all of you for being here this evening and for sharing this valuable information. I feel like I just learned a lot through this presentation. And Anna, I believe you are our mayor for the Student Government Day, and you were like the perfect mayor. And you know, if you look at the wall at the back of this City Hall room, it's all men, which is wonderful, but we do need some ladies up there. So, you know, just you know, planting a little seed. And also, it was mentioned that there was a funding shortage of over $14,000, and I'd really like to find out, you know, what the city can do to help better meet the funding needs of the Mental Health Board. So I think it would be good to look into that and see how we can kind of strive for better. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we do not need a motion for this, so we'll just accept your report. Thank you very much for all your hard work and everything you've done.
Thank you.
Moving on, item number 4, amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments? Okay, no amendments to the agenda. Moving on to the omnibus agenda. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I did the motion.
Bruno, thank you. Roll call.
Alderman Bruno.
Aye.
Alderman Berghardt.
Aye.
Alderman Clements is absent. Alderman Ruby.
Aye.
Alderman Caven.
Aye.
Alderman Kilberg.
Aye.
Alderman Marks.
Aye.
Alderman McGowan.
Aye.
Alderman Swanson.
Aye.
And Alderman Maladra.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very much. That brings us to item 10, municipal bills for payment.
If I may read the bills in their aggregate. Municipal bills for payment totaling $1,610,188.96.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items that add up to that amount can be found in tonight's packet on the city website.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call again.
Alderman Berghardt.
Aye.
Alderman Clements is absent. Alderman Ruby.
Aye.
Alderman Caven.
Aye.
Alderman Kilberg.
Aye.
Alderman Marks.
Aye.
Alderman McGowan.
Aye.
Alderman Swanson.
Aye.
Alderman Bruno.
Aye.
And, sorry, Alderman Maladra.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very much. Moving on, item 11A, resolution number 2019-99, authorizing professional services agreement with SB Friedman in the amount of $10,000 for continued analysis of project costs and projected revenues related to proposed industrial development within the Southeast Master Plan area. I have a motion, please.
So moved.
Alderman Bruno, a second.
Second.
Alderman Marks, very good. Any comments comments or questions pertaining to item 11A? August.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I was against this resolution, not because I was against the analysis or the Southeast Master Plan, but only because I think we, as a city, we enter into a lot of consulting agreements, and this consulting agreement ended up going over budget by over 50%. I also was not impressed with the detail in the budget to come up with the additional funding to continue the analysis compared to the initial proposal had a very detailed budget, and this was just kind of seemed to me just a number pulled out of the air. So for that reason, I oppose this resolution. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? No. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
That won't say it.
Oh, okay. Just out of curiosity, what is the city's recourse if the council were to vote down this agenda item?
If it didn't pass, then we would stop all services and we wouldn't have the information that we're trying to gather to understand what the gap is for the sump area.
So in other words, we'd be like starting over from scratch with a different.
Well, you'd have the work done to date is our work product now.
Yes.
So you just wouldn't be able to basically cross the finish line.
And thank you for that information. And also, if I'm not mistaken, we originally went out for bid for this work, and that's how we ended up with SB Friedman. I was just curious, does the city expect that if we had gone with any other bidder, this same scenario would have played out?
Yeah, so the original bid was based on a bunch of different variables, and until you start digging into those variables, you don't know how complex it is. The original proposal was to basically do one iteration, one review of the information, and things on the city side changed and things on the developer side changed, which caused them to have to review multiple times.
All right, well, thank you.
What have we been invoiced for thus far?
If you hold on, I do not know off the top of my head, but I can probably find it. So, bear with me. And I will just make note, Kathleen would have been here this evening, but she suffered an eye injury, so she's not with us today.
In other words, I guess my question is, have we been invoiced for the full 20,000 already?
Again, I don't.
Okay, okay, fine.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay, I understand.
So it looks like thus far we have been, what was the original?
20.
Yeah, it looks like thus far it looks like, yeah, 20. It's 19 and change.
So in other words, they've spent it all already. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It is explained in the packet that SB Friedman projects that the remaining costs will not exceed, it's more like they're hoping that the remaining costs will not exceed $10,000, but they still left the opportunity that if it went over $10,000, they would approach the city again.
So let me backtrack for a second because Kathleen just chimed in. She's apparently watching us at home. Hi, Kathleen. Happy birthday tomorrow. So I have two invoices here. One's not related to the SIMP. It's a different project. So the actual invoice was $78.26 that we've paid. The other one, I don't know, looks like was from a capital project back in March, but I don't know that. So the one related to this item is $78.26.
And to Alderman Swanson's point, because the, is it called a contractor, SB Friedman, is asking for approximately 50% additional payment based on the original projected cost, is it possible, or was this $10,000 negotiated at all? Is
So
it
the
a-
10,000 is based on an hourly rate, so it may not all be spent. It depends
Yeah.
how much more time it takes them to do it. So
That's
it
true,
is an
so-
estimate of the time they think it will take to bring the project to completion.
Okay, so it's possible that they could come in under $10,000
That's correct.
additional. Is it possible to negotiate a lower amount with them, or has that been,
Kathleen has already done a lot of negotiating, and this was the best that we could come up with.
okay, that's good to know.
I mean, before we even brought it to the council, we checked everything, we talked to them and made sure, you know, again, that this isn't just, you want more money, it's that it truly requires the additional work.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? I have a question. This came up last time, and I can't recall the answer. Nearness to completion. So when we talk about the possibility of coming in or going over, I'd like some idea of the amount of ground we have yet to cover. Do you know this?
I do not.
Kathleen mentioned it last week. I think she said that we were near.
I think we're near
Near the finish
line. I do, but I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know that as a fact, but I do recall that that's where we're at.
Okay. Enough. Any other questions, comments? Nope. Let's do a roll call on this.
Alderman Ruby.
Nay.
Alderman Caven.
Aye.
Alderman Kilberg.
Aye.
Alderman Marks.
Aye.
Alderman McGowan.
Aye.
Alderman Swanson.
Nay.
Alderman Berghardt.
Nay.
Alderman Bruno.
Aye.
Alderman Maladra.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to item 13.
You might want to skip to new business.
Oh, skip to new business. Okay.
I mean,
Sorry. Because we're about to go into closed session, we'll skip ahead to new business. Does anybody on the council have any new business? Nope.
Just wanted to remind the tens of millions of viewers of this that Christmas Walk is coming up this weekend. Come into Geneva for a magical time.
Anybody in the audience?
Awesome. I have a bit of a sore throat, so I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Muhammad. I am the Outreach Director for Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, here to give you all a legislative update on what the Congresswoman has been doing. She's been sworn into office this past January. So a huge priority of the Congresswoman is being accountable and accessible. And so with that being said, we have 2 district offices, one in West Chicago, so right down the road on 38 and 59. We're in a little office park there, and we're open every day, or excuse me, weekday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then we also have our Woodstock office, which is right next to all of the government buildings. It's on Russell Road, I believe. And that's also open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We try our best, because the district is so expansive, to meet people where they are. So we have this thing that we do called mobile office hours, where we have staff, typically our caseworkers, go out to different areas of the district. And this is on a rotating basis. It's 8 different locations, and they occur once a month. So the closest to you all would be the Yorkville Public Library. We are there every 4th Thursday from 3 p.m. to 6:45 p.m. If you wanted to go to mobile office hours, but you can just come into the West Chicago office. No need to have an appointment. You can drop by, or if you'd like to, you can schedule an appointment in advance. In addition to the mobile office hours, the Congresswoman hosts a series of public events throughout the Northern Illinois area. Most recently, In addition to the office hours, she hosted her 14th town hall in Oswego, so 14 for the 14th, and that was in mid-November. And you can find out details about these various events on our website, underwood.house.gov, as well as our social media pages. So one of Representative Underwood's most essential roles is helping residents cut through federal red tape and ensuring that the 14th Congressional District receives its fair share of federal resources. So I mentioned our casework team earlier. So they assist constituents who have challenges with federal programs like Social Security, Medicare, the VA, visas, as well as passports. And in addition, when it comes to the component of helping local municipalities or governments and organizations get access to federal resources. I manage our grant program, so I actually send out emails on. It usually happens a couple of times a month, just based on the announcements. But I send those to Mayor Burns, and one of your assistant city administrators has confirmed that he's been getting those emails, so that's awesome. But basically, these are just different opportunities from various federal agencies, the Department of Transportation. It could be any grant-making agency. We have quite a few. So I'll send those out based on just the information or feedback that I'm hearing from folks here on the ground to see if you all would be interested. And if you are, you can reach out to our office and we can write letters of support. So that means you all would draft a letter, and then we would review it, and the Congresswoman would send it to the necessary agency. Now, we can't guarantee that you will get any funds, but of course, this is our way of supporting you. So just to be clear, we can't do any letters of support for state funding, but this is only for federal grant opportunities. So in addition to connecting with staff in person, you can email us through our website at underwood.house.gov or call our office, and I will leave some business cards here for you all. The Congresswoman herself, she serves on 3 key committees in Congress. She serves on the Education and Labor Committee, Veterans Affairs, and she is the Vice Chair of Homeland Security. She has authored over 2 dozen of pieces of legislation and worked with her colleagues to pass bills that make our government more accountable, transparent, and to secure our elections, tackle things like climate change, and lower health care and prescription drug costs. She's fighting to get tax relief for Illinois families hit hard by the $10,000 cap on the deductibility of state and local taxes, or known as SALT. Many of you saw your tax bills increase this year because of the deduction that was previously eliminated. And the Congresswoman's legislation, along with Congressman Caston, H.R. 1757, would allow all residents, or nearly all residents, to deduct the full value of their state and local taxes. The Congresswoman has also introduced legislation to lower health care costs. Her Health Care Affordability Act, H.R. 1868, would reduce premiums for people who buy their own insurance, and would therefore ensure everyone would have the option of a health plan that is no more than 8.5% of their income. She recently introduced legislation to help eliminate co-pays and co-insurance for certain drugs that treat chronic illnesses like insulin, asthma inhalers, and heart disease medication. It's called the Chronic Condition Copay Elimination Act. And of course, she's working to protect coverage for pre-existing conditions and banning junk insurance plans. Yes, I could go on, but I don't want to hold you all. But yes, the Congresswoman is working very hard for the people of the 14th District, and we thank you all for being very generous with your time tonight and allowing me to speak. And if you have any questions, I have cards as well as these resource cards. I have business cards and then these resource cards for constituents. They can fill out and send it to us. It's already has post-its on it, but if they have any questions or need help getting access to some of those resources that I mentioned, our office is here to help. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we leave, does anybody have any questions for Congresswoman that they'd like to ask?
I'll go right ahead.
Well, since we just discussed it, do you happen to know if there are any federal grant opportunities for the mental health initiative?
None that come to mind right now, but I definitely plan to follow up about it. We worked with some of the organizations that she mentioned, like the Association for for Individuals with Disabilities.
Right, the AID.
Yes, we worked with them before to do a grant letter of support, so I'm happy to reach out to them, or if you want to be in communication. But yes, I will take a look. Unfortunately, we all know, like the federal government, that's something that we need to address. So in terms of grant opportunities, I'm not sure what's out there from the federal agencies, but I can always be helpful.
Okay, great. I would love your card. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Anybody else? We're going to let you off easy, I guess. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna grab my card.
Item 13, closed session. We have a motion to go into closed session for the semi-annual review of closed session minutes as mandated by section 2.06 of 5 ILCS 120/2C20.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Absolutely. Alderman Caven.
Aye.
Alderman Kilberg.
Aye.
Alderman Marks.
Aye.
Alderman McGowan.
Aye.
Alderman Swanson.
Aye.
Alderman Bruno.
Aye.
Alderman Burgart. Alderman Clements is absent. Alderman Ruby.
Aye.
Alderman Maladra.
Aye.
Motion passes 9-0.
All right, thank you very much. We will be back. This won't take long. And the only action that'll come out of this is the release of certain closed session minutes after our discussion. Thank you very much. All right, do we have a motion to return to open session? So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to release the following closed session minutes. Minutes relating to the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body. July 27th, 2015, the full minutes. August 8th, 2016, partial minutes. March 26th, 2018, full minutes. August 20th, 2018, full. And minutes relating to the review of certain closed session minutes. November 19th, 2018, the full minutes.
Second.
Okay. Alderman Kilberg.
Aye.
Alderman Marks.
Aye.
Alderman McGowan.
Aye.
Alderman Swanson.
Aye.
Alderman Bruno.
Aye.
Alderman Burgart.
Aye.
Alderman Clements is absent. Alderman Ruby.
Aye.
Alderman Caven.
Aye.
And Alderman Maladra.
Aye.
Motion passes 9-0.
All right. Thank you very much. That brings us to the conclusion of the city council meeting. We have a
Move to adjourn.
Alderman Bruno, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the committee of the whole meeting. All right, call the committee of the whole meeting to order. Let me note that all committee members except for Alderman Clements are present. Agenda item number 2, approve the committee of the whole minutes from November 18th, 2019. Do we have a motion? Alderman Swanson.
Second.
Second by Alderman Burkhart. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda item 3A, consider draft resolution authorizing execution of amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the city of St. Charles related to the extension of city water main to serve property in the city of St. Charles.
So moved.
First, Alderman Marks, second.
Second.
Alderman Bruno. City.
Take it away. So Parkside Reserves was a proposed 3-unit townhome development just north of Wheeler Park in the city of St. Charles. And although the project is in St. Charles, the developer has requested to connect to the city of Geneva's water system. On December 17, 2018, the City Council approved an intergovernmental agreement with the City of St. Charles to allow this connection at the developer's cost. The Parkside Reserves project has since been revised to add a fourth unit, which requires a revision to the IGA. The agreement has been reviewed by staff and the city attorney and is recommended for approval as drafted. And if you have any other questions, Director Babica is present this evening.
Okay, do we have any questions?
Probably, you can answer this one. Do they pay the higher rates then, or because it's an intergovernmental agreement, they pay
Same
the
rates.
same rates as the citizens then? Okay.
We have different properties
Right.
along that border, that some are on St. Charles water and some are on Geneva water.
That's why we
so-
do, okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is it? Do not need a roll call for this one. So all in favor of item 3A?
Aye.
I have to tell you what to say. Any opposed? No. All right. Item 3B, consider approval of certificate of completion for South Street Estates. Do I have a motion? Alderman Burkhart, do we have a
Second.
second? Alderman Bruno? City Administrator, you're up.
Okay, so I'm actually going to combine the next two items, although you will take separate votes. The first item, they're both related, is the certificate of completion for the public by I can never say this. Anyhow, the sidewalk, the right-of-way improvements by 2 minutes, thank you, surface, to accommodate the construction of the South Street Estates. With the certificate of completion, the corresponding letter of credit supplied can be reduced to 10% and serve as a one-year warranty on the reference completed improvements. The next item on the agenda that you'll be considering is the certificate of acceptance for the public water main, electrical improvements, sanitary sewer, and storm sewers to also accommodate the South Street Estates project. A recent site review by staff confirmed that all of the referenced improvements are acceptable, and with the certificate of acceptance, the remaining balance covering the water main, electric, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer items of the corresponding letter of credit supplied by the developer can be released. So, again, Director Babica is present to answer questions on either of those items and to teach us all how to say by 2 minutes.
All right, is that clear to everybody? Okay, any questions? Nope. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 3C, as previously explained, consider approval of certificate of acceptance for South Street Estates. Motion? Alderman McGowan, second.
Second.
Alderman Bruno. Any questions? Nope. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Excuse me. Item 3D, consider draft resolution authorizing execution of PACE subsidy agreement effective January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, subject to fiscal year budget approval. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Alderman Bruno.
Second.
Alderman McGowan. Okay. Alderman Ruby, sorry.
So the Ride and Cane program was implemented in February 2008 and provides community access for senior citizens 65 years or older and persons with disabilities. Under Ride and Cane, riders have the opportunity to access locations anywhere within the county and are able to obtain curb-to-curb transportation service in evening and on weekends. The program is made possible by federal grants from the Regional Transportation Authority, as well as contributions from participating agencies. The attached agreement provides subsidies by PACE to the program. The grant funding helps fund City of Geneva riders in an amount not to exceed $86.05 provided by PACE subsidies. The city pays the balance up to the annual budgeted amount. So in this particular fiscal year, that budgeted amount is $30,000, and again, we're in the middle of the budget process for next fiscal year, but typically it's about the same level of budget. So, and I just thought, just in case you wanted to know, we have roughly 225 registered riders for the Ride and Cane program, but only about 10%, 25, are regular users every month, and others are just a little bit more sporadic.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? Nope. All right. All in favor of item 3D, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All right. Item 3E, draft ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 5 of the City Code pertaining to committee, regular, and special meetings. Motion? McGowan, second.
Second.
All right.
Okay, so this is pretty much as stated. You'll recall in May, the City Council passed Resolution 2019-56, temporarily changing the Committee of the Whole meetings from the second and fourth Monday of each month to the first and third Monday immediately following the regular City Council meeting. The change was for a trial basis from June 1 through December 31st. And then at our strategic planning workshop back in November, the decision was made to maintain the new schedule going forward. The ordinance presented codifies the change for the Committee of the Whole meeting and cleans up some language regarding when the mayor may vote, when the mayor pro tem may vote, and what happens when a meeting is scheduled to occur on a city-observed holiday. The basis for the change is in keeping with the City of Geneva's strategic plan and seeking opportunities to increase transparency, solicit feedback, and educate community members, and recognizes that elected officials regularly engage with members of the community outside of the scheduled meetings. There you have it.
All right, there we go. Any questions or comments? Nope. Okay, all in favor of item 3E, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope, item passes. Okay, that brings us to our second opportunity for new business. Ooh, okay, Alderman Burkhart.
Since we have Director Babica here, do you think you could give us an update on the leaf collection? I saw the crews out today fighting hard against the snow and ice.
The second round, I actually have my notes. The second round pickup for all zones was completed on the 30th, November 30th. Final collection began this week and with Zone B today. Zone C is scheduled to begin on Wednesday and Zone A on Friday. Kramer believes that they can actually get all zones completed on Saturday, but we're probably realistically saying it's going to be early next week. Good news is that the heavy winds that came through last week knocked down a majority of the leaves, so we're actually in pretty good shape for catching up with the 1 week that they're behind schedule.
So with Christmas Walk coming up, if they don't get, if there's cars all over, they can't get leaves picked up.
Correct.
So
they try to get into those areas. We know where the houses are in the Christmas Walk. They try to get through those streets first thing, but if someone brings out leaves after we've gone through that morning, it becomes problematic.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make note of, next week is the discussion on recreational marijuana use, correct?
Next week, the City Council will be considering the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding adult-use cannabis businesses.
Okay, thank you. So I've had a few people approach me unable to find the information on our website. I don't know how it's being, if there's any special.
So there's several ways. We do have just the facts section of the website, which has some questions and answers related to this topic. Everything else would be under the Planning and Zoning Commission from the meeting date, which was November, thank you.
Sure.
14th, because I had already logged out, so thank you.
Okay. Do you feel the general public knows to look under Planning and Zoning Commission to find the information?
That's where we've been putting all the information
Okay.
out, everything we've sent out.
Okay.
So everybody who signed up for the Notify Me, all of that.
Okay, so it is in the Notify Me? Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know.
And then the packet will go out Thursday, so again,
Sure.
all of that information will be in the packet on Thursday when it's posted to the website.
Okay.
Under the City Council.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess I would just like to put it out there, and not even as a recommendation, but just a suggestion for the city to consider highlighting that to make it more visible
And that's
for
what I said,
people.
it's also, if you go to the Just the Facts, then there's a link that takes you there, so.
Okay,
And if not, we'll make sure that it's working and
Okay.
up and,
thank you.
absolutely.
Alderman Gowan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I had a question related to the house on Peck Road on the city-owned property. We, as a council, agreed to the plan to offer that house for $1 the purchase price of $1 plus the cost of moving it to anyone interested. Has that information been sent out on the city website, or is there a plan to
Yeah, it's
get
on my
that
list of
information?
things to get to. Unfortunately, I just, with the other Lewis Road property that had some publication requirements and things that I needed to meet. So it's the next thing on my list to get it publicized and put on the website.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Because we
when
know
I
it's
would-
winter, so we know a house won't be moved in the winter, so.
Yeah.
Kind of at the same time, there wasn't a huge push for me to get it off before the holidays.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure that someone interested won't be,
And if someone's interested, they
Told
can always
that-
email me and let me know they're
Yeah.
interested, and I can send them the information once it's prepared.
okay, so it's like, starting now, I mean, currently someone interested could contact the city, and they would just contact you,
Yes.
Stephanie, directly?
Yep.
Okay. And the information will be coming soon
Soon.
regarding that? And it's
We're in
okay,
the
I
middle,
understand.
I mean, again, because
It's the holiday
the
season.
first budget
and-
presentation is in 2 weeks, and
Yes.
with everything else going on, it hasn't been
Yeah.
the priority.
Okay, great. I'm happy to hear like a status update on that. Also, unrelated topic in a way, but I really would like to have a more regularly scheduled, I guess, meeting where we discuss what the city of Geneva is doing to reduce our carbon footprint and kind of get a review and an update of all of the different like environmental initiatives that the city and the community are currently undertaking, and to kind of like celebrate any successes and share any successes and bring forth new ideas. So I thought it would be a good idea to at least informally discuss the environment on perhaps a quarterly basis, because living in the Midwest, we have the 4 seasons, and each season kind of brings its own environmental issues. So with maybe perhaps like energy use and things like that. So I guess I wanted to at least bring it up and kind of ask if anyone else on the council has any input or suggestions or any feedback. So we don't have to discuss it right now, but I at least wanted to perhaps put the idea out there and see if that's something that we could do as a council. So,
Thoughts?
Yeah, I could definitely see one of our kind of policy discussions, one of these free-year nights. I'd love to at least devote part of the evening to that topic. I don't know if I see like quarterly, but I mean, definitely, I think it would be a great topic for us to dive into.
And that is one of the topics you all identified at strategic planning for our policy discussion meeting.
Cool.
so Stephanie, do you think that in the coming fiscal year or in the coming year, staff will be able to kind of come to the council meetings every once in a while and just share information, not just for the council, obviously, but for the entire city, and then have that information regularly updated to the city website?
I would also point that the city website does have a page solely dedicated to this. There is now a list of all the things that we have done, what's in progress, based upon the climate charter, the items that they have. So certainly, people can familiarize themselves with that. And again, this topic was identified as a policy discussion, so I have it on the list where we can slate it when we have a second or a fourth Monday. It'll probably likely be, in all honesty, after February, because again, we're getting ready to hit the holidays and budget.
Yes, and I don't really foresee this always having to be a policy discussion if it really isn't like something that will lead to an immediate policy change, or if it's not directly tied to some type of policy, but I think it should be at least discussed on an informal basis, maybe under new business as we're doing now. So, and I feel like the more that we talk about it, the better, because I feel that more can be done. And it's good to, again, share all of the good things that the city is doing, and again, celebrate those successes. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Bruno, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, everybody. Good night.